Welcome to British Military History. Make sure to subscribe to Quick Timeline. 1. Field Marshal Sir Neville Littleton, 1904 to 1908. Sir Neville Littleton became the first formal chief of the General Staff in 1904, at a time when the British Army was still absorbing the lessons of the Second Boer War. His tenure marked the beginning of centralised professional military leadership in Britain. Littleton emphasized the modernization of training institutions, the reorganization of the War Office, and the establishment of more systematic staff procedures. One of his most significant contributions was supporting the formation of the Army Council, which rebalanced the distribution of military authority. He also worked to refine the structure of the General Staff, intending to make it comparable to continental systems such as those in Germany. Although Littleton did not oversee major combat operations during this period, his influence lay in shaping doctrine and organizational reform. His insistence on better officer education helped develop a more intellectually capable leadership class. Littleton's tenure is often viewed as transitional, bridging the old Victorian army with a more modern, centrally directed force. His reforms laid foundational groundwork that later chiefs would expand upon, especially as the global political climate edged closer to the tensions that would erupt into the First World War. Overall, his leadership set the tone for the emerging professionalized British Army of the 20th century. 2. General Sir William Nicholson, 1908 to 1909. General Sir William Nicholson served a short but influential tenure as Chief of the General Staff, guiding the army during a delicate phase of modernization. Although he served for only a year under the original title, Nicholson represented an evolution toward more coordinated strategic planning. Under his leadership, the British Army intensified its focus on readiness and mobilization, especially in response to rising European tensions. He emphasized improving communication between the General Staff and the Army's operational commands, ensuring that planning became more comprehensive and aligned with potential future conflicts. Nicholson also advocated for stronger relationships between the Army and the Royal Navy, anticipating that any major European war would require joint operational strategy. His practical approach to military administration earned him a reputation as a steady reformer who continued the momentum of his predecessor. Nicholson's tenure is particularly important because he became the first chief of the Imperial General Staff, CIGS, when the title was formally changed in 1909, reflecting the Army's responsibility for imperial defense. Though his time in the position was brief, he helped solidify the role's authority, preparing the way for successors who would navigate the army through the First World War. Nicholson's organizational clarity and administrative steadiness ensured continuity in a rapidly changing military environment. 3. Field Marshal Sir John French, 1912 to 1914. Field Marshal Sir John French, later famous for commanding the British Expeditionary Force, BEF, in the First World War, served as Chief of the Imperial General Staff during a period of extraordinary tension in Europe. His tenure emphasized preparing Britain for the possibility of a large-scale continental conflict. French worked to professionalize the Army's leadership and continued strengthening the mechanisms for mobilizing the BEF, making its deployment more efficient and strategically responsive. He was a strong advocate of close cooperation with France, believing that Britain would inevitably fight alongside the French army should a war break out with Germany. However, French's time as CIGS was also marked by political turbulence, especially the Curragh incident of 1914, involving the potential use of the army in Ireland. The crisis damaged his relationship with the government and contributed to his resignation just months before the outbreak of war. Despite this controversy, French's efforts in developing mobilization plans were crucial when war began in August 1914. The foundations he laid allowed Britain to deploy the BEF rapidly, helping blunt the initial German advance. His CIGS tenure represents a complex mix of organizational progress and political strain, but one undeniably shaped by the looming storm of global conflict. Thanks for exploring British Army chiefs with us.